Right, 1, 2, 3. It's Weaving Web3. Welcome to Weaving Web3 with me, James.
Me, Chris.
Me, Stash. Stop vaping.
Stop vaping. Do you tell it, Chris? Yeah, this is your podcast, right? You're allowed to vape if you want.
Exactly. Stash, you can't control me.
What the viewers have just got is a look behind the curtain to controlling Stashes off camera. You know, look at him drinking his coffee. His earring wouldn't hurt anyone.
James, I really appreciate how you always turn this into Stash being the back.
Well, Chris, he's there shouting at us for vaping. Keeps telling me to stop doing heroin. I don't know what his problem is. You know,
it's all right. Don't worry.
Chris, it's just so Moorish. You know, you have a bit of heroin, you just want a little bit more. Anyway, that's nothing to do with Weaving Web3 or anything to do with crypto. Couple of topics we're going to talk about today. Stash has been soirees with fancy people, and he's found these things very appealing. So he's going to talk to us about the pair protocol. That would work better as a pun if it was like the banana protocol instead of appealing, but it ties a little bit. And I'm going to be a little bit annoying and just talk about non-crypto related bits for a little bit. Just talk about some of the macroeconomic bits going on, taxation, inflation, pay rises, strikes, etc. Are you boys happy for me to kick that one off?
Yeah, you go.
Go for it.
Smashing. So, in the UK at the moment, did you see that the Chancellor came out? Chancellor Jekyll came out, I believe, or head of the Bank of England. Can't remember who it was, and he just said people just have to accept they're now poorer.
Yeah,
they have to accept they're now poorer.
I was like, does he really understand how the economy works? Like, does he really understand how that is not a good thing to say when you're in like a position of power?
It's really right. So I want your lad's opinion on this. Okay, so why do nations become poorer? What happens?
Well, there's different reasons. I mean, with Africa, it's because they got looted and pillaged and enslaved and all that.
So you can have other countries take your resources. That is normally, like, obviously macroeconomics. It's a global game. Everyone is trying to win. And you look at like the pound. Now, the pound was historically incredibly powerful when it was the global currency of trade. That has now shifted to the dollar, and you see America.
That isn't a bit of like
and now the dollar's struggling.
Nation.
And how much debt are they in? Like trillions and trillions of dollars.
Yeah, I would say like there's a lot of debt, but everyone's in debt and everyone's in debt to each other, so it sort of works out.
It cancels out.
Yeah, it's all fake money anyway.
I meant as like nations wise rather than individuals who owe money. But like that's why obviously Europe did the euro, because there were so many small currencies that kept getting fluctuating massively, and lots of the central powers, and it's not the French with the franc and not the Germans with the Deutschmark, but lots of the smaller countries really struggled to keep their currency solid and reliable and non-volatile in Europe, a lot of the smaller nations. So they go, okay, we'll all collectively come together, we'll all use a euro, and that global bargaining power, that mass, makes it so that it's not as volatile. Because everyone, the whole of Europe, has to struggle.
Yeah.
So you do.
I mean, the euro is just for European Union countries.
That's
so like Poland still have the zloty, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Greece, obviously, being half Greek, obviously, I know this. Like the amount of people who are like, screw the euro destroyed our country, bring back the drachma.
I mean, the Greek finance teams are a little bit suspect.
Yeah.
It strikes me, Chris. Now you've told me this that when you go to Greece, there's a lot of half-finished buildings that people have just gone.
The thing is, the whole approach in general in Greece is like, we'll get it done. Don't worry. You can sort it. Like, oh, you don't need a professional sound engineer for that. I've got my cousin, I don't know, Christos over there.
That's you, and you can do a sound engineer, so you're fine. They're absolutely fine. But no, like, so we're talking like macroeconomics and inflation stuff. You look at countries and go, why are countries getting weaker? Well, as far as I see it, for the UK, what do we produce? Like, what is our unique selling point?
Finance, tax havens. Well, that's even kind of.
Well, we're not a tax haven though.
No, so we aren't a tax. Ireland is a tax haven.
Yeah, Ireland's good. But like, so I look at countries and I go, okay, right. So Germany, automotive industry, they make all the cars in Europe essentially. I mean, the French make some obviously as well, but like the Germans, they do that. They have massive like was it? Is it which one is it? Is it Pfizer? Is it all German or whichever one it is? Stash, you surely know which
Yeah,
are the German
yeah,
ones.
yeah.
But like they do like massive bits of healthcare. They do automotive stuff. You look at different places in the world. The Americans are tech. They absolutely dominate the tech market. They dominate a lot of oil markets and things like that as well. They've got huge natural resources. Russia's unique selling point is natural gas and oil. Same with the Saudis. Like the UK used to have lots of things that it was the best at. Like it was textiles in in maybe the 40s and 50s.
Steel, British Steel, you had all those.
British engineering, Rolls-Royce planes,
Rolls-Royce, yeah.
like,
that was a big thing when Rolls-Royce left the UK.
You look at all the stuff that they used to do, right? That the UK used to do, and obviously we've outsourced a lot of that, and I get that. And this is where, in my mind, China is winning an economic war incredibly well by managing to ship out their workers for an incredibly cheap price, so that now they have the expertise to make things that are important.
Yes. However, in China's sort of perspective, China doesn't really have any sort of protections for their workers. Like they are producing all of this really, really cheap labor. However, the quality,
the cost of the people.
The quality of the products, for one, is inferior because they're just getting, I don't know, Tom, Dick, and Harry.
So I'm going to stop you there, right, and make an argument here, Chris. The quality of some mass-produced Chinese goods is low. The quality of some high-end things they make, for example, all of the smartphones, all of the processor chips, all of the displays, etc. they are the high-end producers of all of our electronics. Like Taiwan, which the whole debate around Taiwan and China, but huge producers as well of that. Do you know what I mean? It's all Asia. And I look at a lot of stuff, and I completely agree with you that like cheap plastic thing from China is cheap, but also a lot of the really important IP, like that if you need to say, for example, you want to do a war and you can't get hold of processors.
Yeah.
Well, they're all in a country you're at war with. So by mass producing everything, they've managed to, and by getting a renowned for actually, and this is the other reason I was going to say about China. The reason people export to China is twofold. One, they do it cheap. They are cheap, and you're completely correct. They don't care about the environment, don't care about the workers, and they get it done fast. But also, there's the other side that they get it done well. Because if they were rubbish, no one would use them. But everything in our things, like all our screens, all our monitors, all our phones, everything made in China. And you think they're not all rubbish.
No, definitely not.
And I think that's when I look at like a macroeconomic state. I look at the UK. I go, well, what are we doing? Because what the Americans do is they go, well, we produce all the really high level tech and the investment and they provide the money. They provide the high level ideas. And the Apple model, isn't it? Designed in California, made in China. They're doing the high level design and the coding, etc., and then shipping out the build.
Yeah.
But I feel like the UK has shipped out a lot of the build, but also a lot of the expertise.
Absolutely.
And we've gone, oh, we'll just pay for it, which is fine if you're wealthy. But I think over time, we're not really world leaders in anything.
I watched a film the other day called The Triangle of Sadness.
Okay, so is this a documentary about me?
No. so it's basically set on this like really, really high class sort of multi-millionaire yacht, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a load of really rich people on this yacht cruise sort of thing. And it goes on about how they're billionaires. Some guy made billions and billions off like I don't know, selling poo, the manure and stuff like that. But the ship wrecks and they end up shipwrecked on like an island, on a desolate island sort of thing. And you see how the power dynamic changes because the toilet cleaner who survived actually knows how to survive in those situations, whereas all these people have been like they've been sort of provided for their whole lives, have no sort of way of like being able to survive and hunt and like fish and stuff like that, make fire. So the power dynamic completely changes, and these people are like offering out Rolexes to like sleep in the inside cabin bit that she's got and stuff like that. And it's really funny to see. And I feel like a similar situation happens with these big countries like England, right? So now that we're not really producing anything, we sort of have to go elsewhere to get things because we've shipped it off for cheap, and we don't actually have any of that industry in our country, so we can't actually produce these things. So if we get cut off, we're screwed.
Well, or if your country's really thick, all they do is they cut themselves off. Because what happens is, for example, doctors and nurses, we'll come around to the NHS in a minute, we have a shortage of doctors and nurses. Why do we have a shortage of doctors and nurses? It is not the best paying job in the world.
Yeah.
Doctors do get paid a good wage, right? But when they're consultants, you spend 7 years or 6 years at university. You then spend a further, I think it's 4 or 6 years as a junior doctor, at which point you could apply to be a consultant, but there's no guarantee you get a job because there aren't that many jobs, right? So you think you're leaving school, you're putting in 12 years of work, and I think they don't make over something like 40k or something whilst junior doctors.
Yeah.
But you're expecting to work 12-hour shifts, deal with people dying in their arms, deal with telling families about loved ones dying, dealing with, it's a hard job. And you're asking people to do this. And the British people go look at it, a lot of them, and go, that is not an attractive proposition to me. It's not attractive. It doesn't. Why would I want to do that? I can make more money doing whatever else, right? Now, there's prestige that comes along with a job, but prestige only gets you so far. And we used to fill that gap by hiring in people from countries who are less wealthy, typically in Europe. And we could do that because we were part of the European Union, which made coming to us really easy. And what you could then do is you could live in the UK, you could live relatively frugally, you could send a lot of money home if you wanted to, because a lot of families do that. It's not a thing in British culture, but it's a thing in a lot of other cultures. My mum worked with a lot of South Asian doctors and nurses, and it's a massive thing in their culture, Muslim culture as well.
Work for the NHS?
So my mum's a chief exec of an NHS trust.
Oh, wow. So my girlfriend also works in the NHS. She's a mental health nurse, and she was telling me a little bit about this sort of thing, the situation. And she was saying that one, she wouldn't leave the NHS just because the pension is so good.
Yeah.
And two, she wouldn't. The thing is, they bring in private contractors sort of to fill the roles now, and they pay them 50 quid an hour.
Yes.
So these people make a lot of money. But she was like, the thing is, I couldn't really live with myself if I went private because they're so terrible. Like, these people, they're so, like, they don't do the jobs properly. They're just there to fill a role sort of thing. And it's just like a different level of quality. And she was like, that's why I stay with the NHS rather than going to like some firm to make a lot more money.
Well,
sort of thing.
Full clarity for me, my dad's a mental health nurse.
Yeah.
My girlfriend works for the NHS in their finance team. Oh, my girlfriend? God, wife, she'll murder me. Wife. It's still too new. My brother is a private nurse, so qualified with the NHS.
So a family of NHS people, and then
now gone private. My sister is a HR manager in the NHS. Chris, I'm embedded in the NHS. So all of this is not me speaking sort of, I've seen a few articles. There's a lot of like on-hand discussions. And you're completely right, mate, about the fact that there are people who, like my brother at the moment, he was at a job, so he worked for a private eye surgery. So the NHS eye surgery list is too full. They go, okay, these people still need care, so we're going to pay a private company to do that for them. My brother would make a load more money than the NHS nurse in his position doing the same surgeries day by day.
Yeah.
Because the NHS can't staff it. But the NHS is paying a higher price per surgery to ship it out than they are in their own theatres.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult. Matt said as well, that's my brother, he said, like, in the NHS theatre, you've got obviously your day surgeries, whatever, but you're also expected, when he was there as a nurse, like a theatre nurse, he's like, so I'm dealing with eye surgeries day to day at this new job, but previously I was dealing with car crashes as well, and dealing with all sorts of other bits, because you're not just limited to doing that when you're you're a nurse. So Matt's like, do you know how much more stressful it is dealing with somebody who's people who've come in off a car crash? He's like, and that's what I'm talking about the nursing as well. Is that the private nurses doing the eye care? He goes, they're mainly old people with cataracts. Come on in. Hi, would you like a cup of tea, cup of coffee? Sit down, have a relax, do your eye surgery. It's massively different to trauma call. Need to get in here and this bloke's bleeding out on the table in front of you. Yeah. So the proposition to be in the NHS is really hard, and that's why the pensions are so good. But to loop back around to all this is all the context that anyone from another country might need. At the moment, the NHS nurses are campaigning for pay rises. They're striking. And the government has actually said to them, it is not legal for you to strike anymore, which I'm not sure really is the point of strikes. No boss or no employer ever wants their people to strike.
Yeah. But
the reason why you do it is because they're not listening to you.
Yeah.
The NHS staff were offered, I believe, and this might be depending on district, Chris, 4.8% pay rise.
Yeah.
But the problem is they're saying, well, inflation's gone up 10% this year.
Yeah.
So we are going to end up poorer.
Yeah.
This was a discussion I had with another person in my family who's an NHS nurse as well. I said, would you be happy if your pay rise went up 10% and your tax went up 4%? Because I said, the problem we have here is the NHS employs 2 million people. 2 million people. And if you need to give 2 million people a 10% pay rise, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. They absolutely do. What I'm saying is we need to fund it from somewhere.
Yeah.
And it has to, the ins and outs of this scenario is it has to be taxes. But the conversation I was then trying to have with them was, how do you balance this? Because if you up taxes for everybody so much, the people who have funds and wealth and social mobility will leave.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? If Stash is a digital nomad, let's say he's a crypto trader, right, and he lives in the UK, and they up the income tax rate base to 25%, it goes to 45%, goes up to 50%, right? Stash makes loads of money, and he's got a Polish passport, so he goes, that's fine, I'll leave. But this is what can happen: is very wealthy people who are not specifically tied to the nation can just leave.
See you later, shitlords.
The same with businesses. If you push tax rates in business, the corp tax has gone up from 90 to 25%. Now, over certain thresholds. But if you push that up, what you can end up with is an exodus of companies. Just go, that's fine, we'll operate from Ireland. And the government is treading that line of going, well, we have to keep the business. It's mainly the businesses they're interested in. We have to keep the businesses in the UK. We have to keep the people happy. If we put up pay rises for the NHS 10% and tax goes up 4%, well, tax has got to go up 4% for everyone who doesn't work for the NHS as well. So we make, 35 million people poorer to make 2 million richer or whatever. I'm extrapolating numbers out here, but this is the balancing act that you have to pay with your taxes. And this is why the Bank of England chief comes out and goes, you have to accept you're just poorer. Because I think he looks at the scenario and he says for certain people, your pay rise will not keep up with inflation. And I think it's difficult because when I look at certain things that I pay for, gas and electric, my gas and electric has doubled. Doubled. Yeah. Nobody's... So when they talk about inflation doesn't hit everyone the same as well. If you make £100,000 a year and your gas goes from £75 a month to £150 a month, it does not hit your pocket the same as the mum of 2 kids that's on £30,000 a year. It is completely different. And I think that's where we get problems in our society, that, not everything is geared to income. Like a tax system actually is a very fair way of costing things. Yeah. The more you have, the more you lose. Whereas life just doesn't work that way. And I think it's incredibly difficult for people as well when it's necessities and not luxuries. You don't need to drive a Porsche, but you do need to have heat in your home and be able to feed your kids. So I know that's been a bit of a long rant for me about economics.
No, it's very interesting. It's nice. It is very true what you're saying. It's such a complicated...
There's also a balancing act of, like, talking and having that communication line with the government, and them actually listening to people as well, that they are not satisfied, sort of thing. Like the whole reason why we're in this situation in the first place is because of fuck ups over the last 10, 12 years, right? That have resulted in this. So I can understand the anger that is about, because they're not the ones necessarily at fault. They're not the ones that made these bad decisions, but they're the ones paying for it.
I would like to force a policy upon politicians that they have to use the services that they legislate over.
Yeah.
When you hear things like your Prime Minister going, I don't use the NHS. Of course you don't. You're a multimillionaire, right? That's ridiculous then. Because you're telling your people, that the people of the country you purport to be, you know, I get it, you're an elite, you are top of the top, but you're telling people we need to do this about this service. The same with education secretaries who've never been to a state school. They've gone to Eton and they tell the state school system how it needs to run. I think you've never stepped foot in those facilities.
Yeah.
Do you mean your school is not your education experience? And this annoys me. You know, I land more on the German side, where their chancellors are typically very experienced in what they do. So Angela Merkel, I think she's got a biochemistry degree or PhD even, was the Ministry for Science, and then came up through. And you think, well, that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like how ridiculous would it be if I was, you know, a privately educated accountant, and I came out and told Sash how they need to change the science policies in universities that I've never been to, right? Got no experience over, because that's what I think. And I get that they've got experts around them, but I don't understand why somebody.
Totally agree with you. It doesn't make sense at all.
No, it infuriates me. I don't think that politicians can advocate for the people they're supposedly advocating for if they don't understand what issues they're going through.
Well, that's the problem with the two-party system that we basically have. It's like you have the left and right, and there's not really the people that represent the middle.
But both the left and right, though, and this is the thing that I think's hilarious. Look at the leaders on our left, which is a very weak left, and our right, which is, to be honest, not that far right. We've got two very central parties compared to the American system.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, where it's like either KKK or like.
Well, the American, the whole system though is run by a very select group of men who went to the same schools. And I just look at it and go, those are the only people that can waste their time trying to be career politicians, because the rest of us have to make a living. It takes years to become a high-level politician. And how do you make money during that time when you start out and you don't have any money? Because you have to have family money backing you. And I see it. There was a mayor for London. One of those guys running for mayor for London was a working class guy. You know, came up through. Lots of them are the mayoral level, etc. But I just think nationally, we need to change policies quickly to do something to get us back on track. For me, the way I would do it, if you were to put me in charge of education, is I would make us hyper technological.
Absolutely.
I would say engineering and technology is what I would want the UK to be doing. I would look at places like Japan, South Korea, the States, and just go, right, what can we do?
What do you think about this whole maths drive that Rishi's putting forward? That everyone needs to do maths, sort of thing. Everyone needs to get math. Because I guess that leads on to more engineering-based sort of subjects afterwards, if you've got that maths. Because, for instance, to get onto my course, to get onto my degree, I needed maths and physics, right?
Yeah.
And thankfully, I had done those. I did them after I had done my A-levels to get onto a different course, but I had them, sort of thing. So I think maths is very important, but like the way he's come across it and like basically imposing it on people is kind of wrong.
I think what I would do school-wise is I would push hard for subjects that are beneficial for the nation and where the nation would like to be headed. So, for example, I would say something like, right, if we want technology to be the forefront of what we can do. Because as a nation, I go, look, we don't have great big resources. We don't have lots of land. We don't have an empire. What do we have? We have a highly educated society. We should be able to produce people of such levels that we can produce things that can be used globally. So technology, engineering is what I'd like. And we do have, like, Formula One teams are all based in the UK. You know, like Rolls-Royce engines and stuff are still designed in the UK.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we do have, like I don't know, Dyson vacuums or whatever. We do have technology. We do have innovation, right? And we do finances very well. Fine. But what I would do is just simple enough to go, okay, well, 10,000 places a year at university for the STEM subjects we want, engineering, etc., are paid for. Right? That there, not an enormous cost from a governmental perspective. £1 million a year, maybe more than that, I don't know. £1 million a year, a couple million quid a year. I want 10,000 engineers out of it, or 10,000, computer science guys, and go, do you know what? These are highly competitive scholarships. Best of the best, please. Put them through it, and put UK graduates. I don't, do you mean that's my only representative? I don't care. Men, women, whatever. I want the best of the best, and I want UK. Couldn't care who they are, what colour they are, what they do. That's what I want. And in school, push it up through. Be like, okay, well, we're going to push these careers. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, and do stuff that makes it interactive for them. Now, from my perspective with children, when I was a kid, and the way I see kids learn, you can learn maths and physics and computers through computer games. Kids love them.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
It's the first reason you start doing some coding is normally to do with the computer game.
Yeah.
Stuff like Kerbal Space Program. I've seen my cousins play that. That is all maths and physics. How are we making this thing to go up in the sky? Great game, right?
Absolutely, I love it.
But do stuff like that. That is the sort of thing. And I know people are like, oh, it's just playing video games. It's not. That's on, and
it's training, sort of.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
It's training yourselves to be sort of competent with these tools, with these sort of algorithms, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would also change schools to stop using writing as their primary method of texting, putting things out in books.
Absolutely.
All laptops. Because actually, I think laptops and phones, because I want kids at the age of 12 to be fluent touch typers. I hate seeing the whole that the older generation does. But some people our age are terrible at it. I would like everyone to be competent touch typers, because you will not write very much in your adult life. Can you remember the last time you wrote something down that was of any consequence? It wasn't just something you scribbled down quickly.
My lab notes. That's pretty much it. Because I can't. Some places I can't take mine.
Yeah. So especially
with
like maths and stuff like that, because we do maths modules, like to get the formatting right for like doing like, I don't know, the sum of something or whatever, it just takes too long on a laptop sort of thing. So
no, you don't know your Excel well enough, Chris. But this is exactly what problem. It can be fixed, because to my mind, keyboard and mouse should be our primary method of inputting data. It's super quick, it's efficient, works really well. You can choose different fonts so the dyslexic kids don't struggle as much. That's a massive thing for me that I struggle with, reading and writing. P's turn into B's, turn into D's, but if you type it in a right font, it doesn't do it. So I think that should be, these are sort of broad ideas. I'm not education minister, but for me, that would be, if we want to push technology, we do that. And I'm not saying, of course I'm not saying, get rid of arts, get rid of history. I love history. Get rid of geography. People can do whatever they want to do. But I would say, choose subjects and things that can help the nation, and just encourage them. Because at the end of the day, we tax cigarettes because we don't want them. Well, let's give STEM university students who we think could make, large money or go into our best companies. Let's make them more accessible. Let's do stuff to encourage things that would help us. Because at the moment, our whole economy gets weaker by not having a specialism. And if we had 3 big companies, look at the US, how much revenue and money does Apple, Amazon, and Meta bring in, for example? 3 companies. Microsoft as well, 4. You're chucking 4 technology companies in the UK.
Alphabet as well.
Yeah, 100%. So there they go. It's 5 giants. I'd happily have one of them. If we had just one of that level in our nation, we had something, to do, it could make a massive difference to the whole economy. And that's why I there thinking, well, we've got a load of finance people in London. We've got access to capital, venture capital. Let's put good people with good ideas who want to make this country better in front of them. Anyway, I'm going
Make England great again.
Well,
Supreme Leader James in the house.
do you know what, though? I genuinely believe that with not that much investment from the government and just an overhaul of how things are done, I'm not saying we don't teach kids how to write. Absolutely, we do. But keyboard and mouse should be the primary. I want touch typing kids.
Yeah.
It makes everyone more efficient. I want kids to be proficient with that. I want them to be able to do those things. And I know I started this by talking about the NHS and inflation, but I just see a lot of things in the world that could be fixed.
So further on the point of education, how do you think AI is going to impact education in the next 10 years?
It's going to excel our education 10,000 years ahead. But it has to be used in the right way. I don't think people should rely on it forever, because people are just going to be dumb. But I think it will be a tool to aid those who understand to make their lives and companies and everything so much better. For sure, AI is a beautiful thing, yet it can be dangerous because if all these secondary school kids are using ChatGPT to write all their essays without doing any actually understanding what this is, well, to be honest, I think it's end of the day part natural selection. Well, they didn't actually learn anything, so that's their own fault. But at the same time, we have to guide them. So I think there's a fine line. I'll give access to everyone, but we should allow people to make their own mistakes.
Well, here's my counter to that. What is the point in all these bloody in all these bloody essays and reports and all that?
They're useless.
If an AI can just write it within seconds, right?
They're useless to be honest. I hate essays, and I don't.
What's the point in the testing system, which is completely based around how good your memory is? Oh, if you remember this algorithm, if you remember this sort of thing,
You're confusing testing and innovation. So if you want AI to do something that is non-creative at the moment, it is excellent. For example, they asked AI questions in my final ACCA exams, right? Yeah. Smashed out the park, passed all the professional exams with the questions they put in minutes, right?
Yeah.
Great. Because what it can do is look up all the past papers, can see previous answers, it can put that information in. The thing that the humans need to do is be creative. Now, AI can, depending on ChatGPT is a language AI, so it's reviewing data that it can see publicly. And what it's fantastic at is it's got perfect recall, hasn't it? Because it just goes, all right, internet, pull that out, bring that in. And humans don't have that. But the innovation that's needed is when, you say to a human, or you say to a computer, well, what if I do this and do this and do this? And what the computer can sometimes say is, well, you can't do that, or yes, you could do that, and here's the reasons why. What it's not great at the moment, which I'm sure we'll get there, is suggesting an alternative or something else you could do. And I think as well, creativity is, the AI is trained on what humans have already done, but doesn't yet have the ability to do things they haven't done. So, particularly with the language models. So that innovation section we still need to do. Although I will say, I've seen a few AI generations where they use evolution. They're evolution fakers. Does that make any sense? So they put out
Auto GPT. I don't know if you've heard that.
So yeah, there's ones like that. But they put out, for example, what would be a good example? They put out, say, put 1,000 traits into little creatures, right? And they chuck out 50 creatures, and they've all got slightly different traits, and they'll mate with each other and they'll kill each other, and over time you would see something evolve into what's better. And that's essentially what natural selection is, isn't it? That's AI. Is we are evolving and doing that. Now, I'm not saying that computers at a certain point couldn't get more creative, but I think it's difficult because once they're smarter than we are, how do we check their work and their constraints are safe for what we want to do? I think at the moment we're at a baby stage where it can do the perfect recall and the imitation, but I don't think it can do innovation.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, good point.
Because it's the same with like art, because people are like, oh, these art AIs, oh, they're so clever, they're so like fresh, they do all this stuff. Like, no. They copy art styles they can previously see.
Yeah.
Like they're not actually, you go, oh, do this in the style of a doodle. Well, somebody's already done a doodle. But when somebody comes in and invents cubism, well, the AI hasn't done that. The AI doesn't, hasn't created that new art style or done something innovative with it yet. At the moment, it's just creating what it's seen. But I'm sure it'll get to a point where it can make its own things. I had another question for you, boys. I think currently, this generation, our generation, we are part Android already. Like,
I mean, are you referring to my Tiki Hut?
I'm referring to the fact that comparable to any generation before us, we have the ability to recall more information, have more, knowledge to hand, do things way faster, more efficiently than any generation that's ever lived on this planet before.
Yeah.
But it's not us.
That's always going to be, I don't know, the current person, right? So at any point in time, I don't know, if you go 1,000 years back, that person had a much better sort of.
See, I'd hazard to say, medieval times, right? Dark Ages, they probably didn't have as much access to information as, say, Romans did.
Oh, absolutely.
Or the Greeks earlier. So I don't think it always goes laterally. But I think at the moment,
that's a fair point.
At the moment, we've skyrocketed because we've all got phones in our pockets and we can get hold of any information as quickly as we like, almost anywhere we'll ever be. And I think we're already part Android. And I wonder where it goes. So here was an interesting point I was discussing the other day. Onlyfans, right? Now, I've never actually been on the platform. I wish I had.
I'm sure that's something that the person who has been on Onlyfans would say.
If Stash had set one up, I'd be on there in a heartbeat. But anyway, he's still avoiding it.
You know, James, how you convince someone. You know how you say, "I'm not going to murder you" to someone that puts the idea in there.
Me? No, never. No, genuinely, never been on it, right? But my understanding of it is that the advantage of it over any other illicit website is that you send messages to the model. Is that other people's understanding?
Okay, yeah.
It's like a more personal chat to them or whatever, right? And you think, well, that's not a partner, is it? That's not a companion. But how many people are virtually having a companion with somebody? A lady, there's a lady, she's in 150 rooms all at once talking to these guys, and some of it, obviously, it's like people talking on the phones for her, or whatever, but they think they're having a conversation with this woman. And you go, well, she's part Android then as well. Do you mean it's not her? And then how long is
$1 million idea here? Do you think there's a way we can get ChatGPT to respond?
I suspect they already
do
all
it. These lonely
Someone's
men.
probably already done that.
That's what I mean. I suspect they already do it, and that's where the question rises. And then you go, okay, well, let's use AI to generate the women then, or the men.
I think
models.
there was something. Someone did that. Then it got leaked that it was all actually all pretend like generated images.
So that's what I mean. So we end up in a position where we have an AI generated person talking with AI to people and actual humans making connections with them. And I worry that will lead to mass dissociation of the populace.
There's going to be like loads of, I think we spoke about it a while ago, like there's going to be disorders with like and like these tech kind of Android AI things, like AI syndrome, where let's say Sunny dies and no one can get their answers because ChatGPT can't do their questions for them. For sure, absolutely. There's going to be these, one day people are going to realize, like, damn, this has not actually been a real person I've been talking to for 4 years, but they've made me feel so loved, or they've like, some people like even did like a therapist ChatGPT and they thought they were talking to like a real therapist, but it's like, you're like, hang on a second, this is crazy. But as well, that could be the power. Like for me, I don't know. For me, human is important.
Have you seen the film Her?
I I've not.
No.
It's with Joaquin Phoenix or whatever his name is.
Joaquin.
Joaquin, yeah. But that was brought out in 2013, and it goes through basically this guy falling in love with an AI.
Mm.
Yes, I mean that's way before its time, sort of thing. Go 10 years into the future now, modern day, right? And that's a real possibility.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
here's my question as well. So leading on to the Android, AI situation. How long is it? So did you know, this is an interesting one for you? Our generation has more casual sex than any generation has ever had, and we have less sex than any generation has ever had.
Say what?
Our generation has more
Speak for
casual
yourself,
sex.
James.
Yeah, Chris is having no sex. No. Our generation, on the whole, like through surveys, is having less sex than any generation before them, but has more casual sex. So if you went back to the 1980s, people had sex with their girlfriend or boyfriend or husband more often than people do now. And one of the big reasons for that is people can get that sexual stimulation in any way, shape, or form they like online. Touch of a fingertip. So a lot of people are going, well, really, do I want the hassle? It's essentially what it boils down to. People go, well, that's expensive. That's quite a lot of hassle. It's a lot, I've really got to put myself out there. So I'll just stay at home and do it myself. And a lot of people genuinely do that. And then that leads into the fact that a lot of countries, an awful lot of countries, are seeing declining birth rates. Because as less people couple during their fertile years, which granted, they are not massive years. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got a limited time where people can have kids. People are just not then having babies. Also, the other big thing is the cost of having a baby. You look at the world as a whole, do you own a house? If not, how are you supposed to have a baby? Because, is your rent going to go up massively? Can you afford, you and your partner, if you've got in a long-term relationship, to feed yourselves, to do the things you want to do? People are getting poorer. Essentials are getting more expensive. If you can't afford to feed yourselves and look after yourselves and do the things you need to do, how can you think about bringing in, another mouth to feed? It's very difficult. And that comboed with the fact that our generation is not getting the sexual stimulus they used to from physical partners, over time, birth rates have started to decline. And Japan is the world leader on declining birth rates.
Yeah.
And they're the most technologically, apart from South Korea, they're the most technologically advanced nation.
People are very scared of this birth rates declining thing. However, the population of the world in my lifetime has gone from 6 billion to 8 billion?
Yes.
So is it really that big of a problem?
Depends how you view it. So let's say
in terms of our planet and the resources that it has and the sort of sustainability of it, I feel like birth rates obviously coming down is a positive. However, for the amount of people to look after the older generation of people and stuff like that, obviously not.
That's
I don't know. Say what you were going to say, James.
No. So I'd say it depends what lens you look at it. So our economy, capitalism, right, is built on continuing economic growth year on year on year on year on year. How do you continue to get economic growth? Tips in the name. You grow.
But that's not sustainable.
No, but Chris, I'm telling you, that's how the global economic system works, right? If that growth stops, that population growth stops, the economy may well stop. The capitalism economy, the way that functions, may not work anymore. Because if year on year, companies go, we can't increase it by 3% anymore. Why? Because there are less people. There are less people to buy our goods. There are less this, there's less that. We can't continue to grow. Then people go, well, hold on, was this a whole big Ponzi scheme? And it might be, right? But it might all collapse.
Turns out Fiat was a Ponzi scheme all along.
Chris, it absolutely could be. But that's something to look at. As you go, well, if the populations start declining, you get a reshuffling as well of power. So when we discussed earlier, right, what was the first thing you said? Well, how do countries lose power?
By stealing from other countries, or like losing their assets to other countries.
Perfect. Population of North Korea. So the North Korean birth rate is measured by per woman.
Yeah.
So the North Korean birth rate is 1.8.
Okay.
So 1.82.
Doubling
actually,
every generation, basically.
pretty much. South Korean birth rate is 0.84. But
how long is a generation? Would you say what, like 30
so
years?
it's not. It depends. So you got to think that probably. What's the average age of someone having a baby? Probably 30 years.
Yeah,
Something reasonable like that. So let's do a bit of quick math. So we'll say it's 2025 now, and then we'll do equals that plus 30 years, and we'll do that. I'm gonna extrapolate down to 2205, right? And I'll do North Korea, and I'll do South Korea, because it is. I'll put these numbers over here. That's 1.82. That's 0.84. And they'll both start with 10,000 people, just for simplicity's sake. I will share this momentarily. So
I feel like I know what you're going to get at.
Oh, you 100% know what I'm going to get at. But what I was going to say is the numbers actually, they change. They're much worse than you initially might think. So let me just pull these numbers down. Do that to that, that to that. So, and let's normalize those, bring that together. And I'm then going to close that, close that, close that, close that, close my OnlyFans subscriptions, close that. And then I will share. So if we do move that one over here and that one to there, we share this workbook here. Tell me when you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll zoom on in. So birth rates in North Korea, 1.82. Birth rates in South Korea, 0.84. Every 30 years, the North Koreans get another 8,200 people in that first time. Then it goes again, and again, and again, and again. Right? And this is over 1, 2, 3.
Over 200 years.
7 generations.
Yeah.
Okay, so 7 30-year gaps. South Korea population decreases. Right? So now what we'll do, we'll just look at the North Koreans' actual population, which is 26 million people. Oh, let's put another 0 on that. And let's put in South Korea's population, which is 52 million.
Actual birth rates.
These are actual birth rates as at this year. So what you could end up with is, and now granted, will they hit 1 billion people? I doubt it. But we don't know. This is just based on how the birth rates are going. You could end up in a situation where in 30 years, North Korea has the same amount of people as South Korea, if these birth rates continue. 30 years after that, North Korea could have double the population of South Korea. What happens if South Korea then want to invade North Korea, then want to invade South Korea?
Yeah, I knew you were gonna. I knew this was what you were gonna bring up.
So
they have North Korea just destroy South Korea.
So they have twice the population. So
no.
Hear me out on this though, right? So if developed, currently powerful nations with a lot of resources, funds, money, etc., have massively declining birth rates, at some point, those countries that are traditionally not as wealthy will have the numbers to go and take their stuff if they want to.
It just all seems like a bit of a dick measuring contest.
That is life.
Why?
That is mother.
Look at me! I've got more people than you. You can't bully me.
Why are humans top? There's more of us. You put you versus a bear, Chris. Not a chance, mate. But luckily, there's 10 billion of us. All right, yeah. We can get rid of all the bears we want because there's power in numbers. But so that's all right. Granted, that's obviously talk about it there, but that is a situation that's real life. That's two adversarial nations that are actually in a position where one could, within 60 years, completely outnumber the other and just go, okay, well, we've won that war of attrition. by having sex. And all your innovation and all your great ideas, they're gone, mate. Because we've got more people. And
I
I
like
think,
how we've gone completely off of finance.
Yeah.
oh, this isn't weaving Web3. This is
This is just a massive.
This is
tangent.
weaving web off topic.
this is James having a rant about what he thinks about the world. Do you want to talk
That's
about
going to
pair
be the
protocol
title of this
Stash?
episode.
you want
James
to talk about
has a
pair-
rant about what he thinks about this.
It's like it's my bedtime now, so I'm ready to go to bed. We could finish it now.
Well, look.
I'm joking.
If you want to end it now, Stash, we'll talk about some pair protocol next week. Or if you'd like to actually talk about
To
some
be honest,
Web3.
we have probably got 45 minutes.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
we
let's talk about stuff next week. I'll give you a nice in-depth.
Okay. Right, look. I go right. There will be a lovely "Where is this from" Stash probably at the end. There isn't.
There isn't. I've just
No.
moved my basement today. I'm sorry.
No, not even a where is this from to break from
The
the.
world has
sorry.
gone to shit. I've had an absolute breakdown this week, and I apologise to all of you. But you might find it interesting if you enjoyed the spreadsheet. You enjoy the Onlyfans talk. I've garbled on about a load of stuff, and none of it is to do with weaving Web3.
Well, some of it, I mean, in terms of the economy, that's all based.
Yeah.
When it got to the dick measuring contest, that was a bit off topic.
Yeah, but it was entertaining, and that's maybe what we lack sometimes, Chris. You know, we're
Hey,
on
and
topic.
you can see more dick measuring on James's OnlyFans.
Absolutely. We've got almost a 2-incher over there now. This is going on really
This
well.
is where I leave.
Oh, unless it's big, Stash doesn't want us to hang around. Oh. Right, we'll cut that bit out. Anyway, this was this week's Not Weaving, Not Web3 with me, James.
Me, Chris.
And me, Stash.
Enjoy yourselves, have fun, keep your eyes open, stay woke, people.
And have lots of sex.
Correct, absolutely correct. Au revoir.
Bye. Nice.
Sorry, boys.